The meeting with the Queen was incredible. I think I can say I really got to know her because I sat with her many times, and we had automatic chemistry. There are those that say they have never seen the Queen have a better time, a more animated time. You look at the weather we have beautiful weather, and it's been this way wherever I've been. She is a terrible person, and I'll tell you, her name, it's Nervous Nancy, because she's a nervous wreck. We have crying Chuck Schumer, who's a disaster, by the way. He's a total political, jerk.
Just a small assortment of the more jarring comments from a president on a Fox News interview with just over 9,000 headstones of American war heroes just over his shoulder there, some of the most hallowed and haunting ground on earth. With us this evening, Pulitzer Prize-winning author, presidential historian Jon Meacham. His latest work is out next week, co-authored with Tim McGraw. It's called Songs of America, Patriotism, Protest, and the Music That Made a Nation. Jon, I've been trying to come up with a question to stump the band, and it's not easy, and here it is. Explain an institution, the U.S. presidency, with the elasticity and forgiveness to have as part of the same club, the same lineage, FDR, Eisenhower, and Donald Trump.
It's the genius of America. It's the remarkable resilience of we the people ourselves. I really do believe that. When you write history, as when you're doing minute-to-minute journalism, you're always seeking continuities and contrasts, right? And when you think about something like the D-Day commemoration, you go back to 1964, when former President Eisenhower went with Walter Cronkite, walked on the beaches, and warned about the wages of war, the costs of war, the importance of peace, very much in 1964, the same year as the Daisy ad that Lyndon Johnson aired against Barry Goldwater. Very much a Cold War moment. Eisenhower, the warrior who understood peace, warning us about heedless and the cost of war. You go to 1984, President Reagan turning D-Day and Operation Overlord into an essential chapter in the story of American restoration. You go to Bill Clinton in 1994, the generational shift. When these men were young, they changed the world. And when we are young, we have our duty to do. You go to George W. Bush in 2004, the same week Ronald Reagan died. He's talking about alliances, the projection of force, the need for moral authority. Barack Obama, the need for an international order. And now, is this a continuity to this week or a contrast? It is self-evidently a sharp contrast. And one of the things we're going to be dealing with for a very long time is to go to some of the men you mentioned. We had a fairly coherent political conversation in this country for about 75, 80 years. It was ferocious and pitched and virulent and even violent. But Franklin Roosevelt and Barack Obama governed in the same vernacular, more or less. Donald Trump doesn't. And we have to figure out, do we want that vernacular to take root or do we not?
Here's another way of putting it from our mutual friend, Matt Miller, formerly of the Justice Department. So this week, Trump continued his feud with a dead man, picked a new one with Bette Midler, attacked a royal family member, said Ireland should build a wall on its border with Northern Ireland, that he didn't serve in Vietnam because it was far away, and the moon was part of Mars. Cool, cool. Jon, it is clear that the president saw this international trip as a chance to comment on disparate topics.
Well, a fascinating thing is, to me, is, and you've been on a lot of these trips, American presidents and foreign travel for American presidents is really, while they're in office, is a fairly recent phenomena. So it's really Roosevelt forward, where it's a central feature of the presidency. Nixon went to Egypt to avoid Watergate. They used to leave the country to get away from domestic politics. President Trump has flattened the world. He takes these fights with him and deploys the various foreign moments to fight these Twitter battles and these punching battles, whatever you want to call them. He's basically a 24/7 professional wrestler who happens to have the nuclear codes. And the choice facing the country, and whether it's congressional action and impeachment or the fast approaching election, is this who we want in charge of our affairs? Is this who we want chatting up the Queen of England? Is it who we want who, when the crisis comes, we're going to depend on his judgment and perhaps his alone?
It has all had me thinking back. I interviewed President Obama almost on the very spot as that interview. And of course, we kept to the one topic, generally the military, but certainly the sacrifice represented by the Stars of David and crosses behind us. The president seemed genuinely interested that the beach had the code name of Omaha, genuinely interested to learn of the casualties faced by the first wave. He remarked to Macron. He signed a D-Day proclamation. We'll put it on the screen. Guess which signature was Donald Trump's? Those of you who guessed upper left in blue ink.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.